Hi, this is Jeff Simmons, and over the next few minutes, I'd like to share with you three simple, proven, yet little known ways that you can turn e-commerce into a serious competitive advantage at your major accounts. As a matter of fact, the techniques I'm about to show you were used last year by suppliers to sell over $2.5 billion worth of products, parts, and supplies to companies like ExxonMobil, Motorola, AT&T, Federal Express, and literally hundreds of other high-profile customers like those that you see here. But first, think about this, and let's just look at the sheer size of this marketplace, because the reality is, in the U.S. alone, business-to-business e-commerce is a $3 trillion market, and it's been one of the fastest growing parts of the economy for almost a decade now. Also, what's interesting is that over 90% of all e-commerce transactions are indeed business to business. So with that as a backdrop, let's get right to it. And to make things easy for you to remember, I just like to think of the three C's that turn e-commerce into a competitive advantage at major accounts. And the first C is simple, and that is to create a dedicated commerce site or e-store that you set up uniquely for your key customers. So let's say, for instance, that you sell computer equipment and supplies, and you want to do business with AT&T. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Now, notice how this site's been personalized and customized with AT&T's logo, their colors, and overall look and feel. So think about this now from the customer's perspective. So if you were one of AT&T's 189,000 employees, wouldn't this look like the official place, the official site where you're supposed to buy computer equipment? And that's really the point, you see, because the trick is the more that you can create a purchasing environment for the customer that looks like their own company store rather than your company's store, that alone gives you a competitive edge for two reasons primarily. First, because buyers really love these kinds of sites that are set up uniquely for them, and also I can virtually guarantee you this is not the way that your competitors are thinking. Now, the second C that's going to give you a competitive edge at large accounts is to give the customer control over the purchasing environment so they can do business with you their way rather than your way. Now, believe me, this really works because there are always certain key people in the buying organization who very much want to control the way that they do business with you. For example, buyers want to control what products and prices are presented to their end users and how the categories and products are displayed, and specifically what end users can see and do and buy, along with how much they can spend. Plus, there's always the issue of workflows and how purchase orders are routed internally before they're finalized and approved, along with, of course, the methods of payment. And also, managers these days, they also want to be able to get up to the minute reports so they can track who's buying what and how much they're spending without having to chase you down. Now, I could go on and on here, but I'm telling you the control factor is really huge, because I've seen suppliers win major new accounts worth millions of dollars by simply giving the customer more control over the buying process. Now, finally, the last of the C's that will give you a competitive advantage, and this one is also really huge, and that is to connect with your customer's electronic purchasing or ERP system. Now, the reason this is so important is, well, let's go back to that AT&T example, because you can see here AT&T, like most organizations, they have their own enterprise purchasing system which they use to manage and control what they spend with suppliers. Now, these purchasing systems, they come in all different shapes and sizes from companies like SAP or Oracle / PeopleSoft or Ariba here. This is a big one. Or maybe you've heard of SideQuest. Well, anyway, when you add them all up, there are at least 25 different companies out there who provide these electronic purchasing systems, and you definitely want to be able to connect with them. And the reason for that is simple, because that's where the money is. Essentially, these connections are like having a direct pipeline into your customer's finance system. Plus, in many cases, these large accounts, they require their suppliers to interconnect with their purchasing systems. Now, maybe you've heard of Punch-Out, because a lot of companies use that term, and let me just tell you a quick story about a hardware salesman that I'll call Dave. So one day Dave calls up the purchasing manager at one of the largest home builders in the country, and before Dave can even get into his sales pitch, The purchasing manager says, "So, Dave, can you do punch out?" And Dave says, "Well, what's that?" Purchasing manager says, "Call me back when you find out." And that was the end of the conversation. On the other hand, here's a scorecard from a supplier who was able to punch out and connect directly with this particular customer's purchasing system. In fact, they were actually the first in their category to be able to do that. And so that punch out, this was the key decisive factor in winning the business. And as you can see here, it was well worth it because the suppliers brought in more than $1.2 million worth of revenue in a period of just over 6 months. So quickly, let's summarize and review the 3 C's. First, you need to create a dedicated site or e-store that's unique to the customer. Second, let the customer control the way they do business with you and let them do business their way. Third, you want to connect directly with the customer's purchasing or ERP system because that's where the money is, and that's how you can create real customer value, which leads to a true competitive advantage at your key accounts, regardless of what products that you sell. So that's it for now. If you have any questions or comments or feedback on this video, I'd love to hear what you think. Or on the other hand, if you're just looking for e-commerce tools that'll help you win or keep or grow the business that you have with your strategic accounts, then just let me know. Again, my name's Jeff Simmons, and here's how you can contact me. That's me there in the middle of the picture. So in the meantime, thanks for your time, and thanks for listening.